What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast. We're so excited for you to join us today. We have a special interview with Stephan Krauel. We're going to jump right into the interview so you can learn more about him.
Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a ballroom dance professional, a life coach, and a peak performance expert. I'm part of a group of motivated people who are dedicated to attaining emotional mastery and unlocking our full potential. We don't believe others are responsible for how we feel. In fact, we don't believe anyone can make us feel anything. We believe in the magic of ballroom dance. It has taught us how to improve our bodies, challenge our minds, and inspire our souls. And in return, I want to share those lessons with the world. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life. Hi, Stephan.
Hey, Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fine.
Great. Thank you so much for doing the interview for us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I'm excited.
You know, a lot of people don't necessarily know of our backstories and of how we got to this point. You know, a lot of times, especially for some of my young dancers, they see you judging or doing your chief judging jobs at the competitions, and they don't necessarily know how you got to that point. And so I thought I'd kind of open it up and let you tell it in your own words and in your own story, how your dance story went. I noticed that you grew up in Germany, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and so I saw and did a little bit of research and saw that you went to college there. I could not, for the life of me, pronounce it. It's probably because I don't know German, but the name of the college you went to, can you pronounce that for me? Like, I don't even know how to say it.
Yes, so it's the University of Fulda. So it's a
Fulda.
city in Germany. It's in the southern part of Germany, not too far from where we're growing up. It's called Fulda.
Nice. And what did you get your degree in?
So I did computer science and management.
Really? And did you at the time think that you were going to go on to use your computer science degree at in any capacity?
Of course.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah, that was the thought. And I was actually hired by the computer company Siemens. That's a very large computers company in Germany. They actually hired me already, and they supported my studies. But
Wow.
The universe had other plans made for me.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit how you got into dance and kind of give us your dance story? Because so many people just don't know about how you got here.
Okay, very good. So I got into dancing because of my sister. She was already a competitive ballroom dancer in Germany. And in Germany, everything is organized in clubs.
Oh, okay.
And then you have also dance studios. So everybody ends up in a club, basically an amateur club. And they are structured very much like here as a dance studio. So they take care of your beginning classes, group classes, and then obviously you will end up in a competitive class.
Sure.
So I joined this club, this very famous German club, Rot-Weiß Club Kassel, it's called, as a young boy with 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And the club took me under their wings and kind of, took care of my my training. I got a partner right away. I did my first national championships when I was 14.
Oh, wow.
And it didn't go so well. We had pretty much no idea what the clothing, what people would wear and what the rules were for juniors then.
Right.
So we had rhinestones all over the place, and people were not very impressed with that. So long story made short, my partner needed to change her costume, and she had to wear red pants.
Oh my gosh.
So that was our first championships.
Wow.
So we learned from there. So that was with 14. Then of course we continued our little dancing career. I had to change partners twice only.
Wow.
And then we became, so everything is structured in a class system.
Right.
So like a pre-novice would be a class of a D and C, and then a novice would be like a B and A, and then our championship level would be an S class, which we call the Sonderklasse.
Okay.
So pretty much very soon we reached through the ranks by doing competition, and you have to win competitions to gain points and status in your respected class, and then you will continue to the next class and so on.
Right.
So that's how it began.
That's a lot different than how things are done here in the US.
Very.
That's interesting.
Very different. Yeah. Very different. Yes. Yes.
And when did you start, or you said you only changed partners twice?
Right. So I didn't have much partners to choose from. So with my last partner, we were quite successful. We were representing our state in the German championships, and then we became Northern German champions as well. So everything is a regional structure in Germany. So you have to qualify through a regional championships to actually go to the German championships and so on.
I see.
So it's a big deal.
For sure. Well, and dance is huge in Germany, right?
It is, yes. It is very large, very popular, very, very popular.
Right. So then what did you do from there? I mean, that sounds like, was that all in your high school years?
Correct. So through high school, I went through my ballroom dance classes. Every week we had one class. And then, of course, as you got better, we took private lessons just like you would do here.
Sure.
With our home coach or with guest coaches. Once we got a little bit better, we then got introduced to some English coaches for the first time. So we went to England for the very first time by car.
Oh my gosh.
Little we knew. So we stayed for a couple of days in England and then got experienced the whole thing in England, which is, again, very different from the German way.
Was
So
this
it was kind of fun and an eye-opener.
in college?
I was in college then, exactly.
I
Yes.
see.
Yes.
And who were you dancing with at that point?
So that was my partner. What was her name now? I can't remember her name. Tanya Schneider. There you go. I'm sorry. I had a little bit of a break there.
Yeah.
So Tanya and I went to England a couple of times then and studied under some of the famous coaches over there. And then I got an opportunity as close to my finish with college. I got an opportunity to come over here to America to finish my studies here in Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
And my Siemens, the company I was working for, they kind of supported it, and they said you should go and you must go. And I came over in April. I was supposed to stay here for 6 months, and I stayed.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's great.
So I never returned.
And so
that's how I met
Oh,
Denise.
okay. You met her at Berkeley?
So I met her actually here she was already dancing with Rex Lewis.
Oh.
And I met her in the local dance scene. Actually, my very first competition was the International Grand Ball in 1989.
Oh my.
And that's where I first took eyes on Denise. She had students there and she danced with Rex professionally.
That's so cool. And was she competing professional already, or was she still dancing?
She was. Yeah.
Okay.
No, she was already professional then. She came right off high school. Straight, she became professional.
Wow. That's great.
And then she and Rex, she represented the country quite a bit, also in England and so on. So they were quite good, those two.
Wow.
They were in the finals of the Ohio Star Ball. They did 10 dance.
Wow.
So they were very good together.
Yeah. And then you won her over, huh?
So then we kind of agreed maybe we should practice together. So we actually practiced in secret once a week until we got a little bit better. And we thought, okay, let's try it out to compete. So there is a category, it's called a pro,
Sure.
where a seasoned professional, which was Denise, will introduce me as a new professional to the competition. So we do a solo, and I will be judged by judges.
Okay.
So she took me to a competition, and we did our first pro, and we got some feedback from the judges, and they said, "Oh, it looks good, and you're a good fit," and so on. So upon that decision, we decided to give it a go, and we started dancing together.
Wow. That's crazy. And when was that? Was that like in the early 90s or?
So that was in the very early 90s. So late of 89 we begun, and our first competition was, I believe, in San Diego, the Southwest Regional,
Wow.
in 89 90. Yes.
Wow.
So we competed from all the way from 90 till 2000
Okay.
with a long
Yeah.
career, a very successful career. We got married in
Oh
92,
wow.
represented the country in 5 world championships in 10 dance, and we did 1 world championships in the South American show dance.
Wow.
We became professional Latin finalist, and of course runners-up in 10 dance
Sure.
behind Gary and Diana McDonald.
Sure. Wow, you did so much. And how come you decided to do 10 dance? Like just because you'd always done it, or did you just couldn't decide which one you were going to do?
So we could never decide just to one style. So we always were the belief that tendons will help one style to the other.
Right.
So obviously it's double cost, double time, double everything.
Sure.
But we always thought of the benefits on the long run, whether you become then a coach or a judge. So I thought always being a tendance had the benefits of, lots of benefits, I would say.
Of course.
It was a lot of sacrifice, but a lot of benefits as well.
Sure. I was a 10 dancer as well, and I kind of came in after a bit after your era, and so I kind of had the same belief. I was one of Gary and Diana's students, and they're kind of raising us up to be 10 dancers as well. But we felt the same way. Every time we went to a lesson, it was like, how can we apply this to the other style and try to make use of it? And, and I think it made a lot of sense, like you said, just to be able to use all that information, especially for coaching and teaching later on. We have so much more options than I think some of the other dancers do.
Absolutely.
So, so during the time when you were competing, how did you practice? What kind of methods or systems did you use to to practice every day? What kind of things did you do?
So as we were young and stupid, we had no method whatsoever. So we took our lessons, of course, trying to remember what the coach told us. That lasted maybe for 2 days, and then a feel of some sort constantly disappeared. So then you're starting from scratch, zero, so to speak.
Right.
So it was quite, we worked very hard on it to establish some sort of a method. So, but it took a while until you season yourself as a dancer. You learn from your mistakes, obviously, and then finally you become more smart and more efficient with your practices. So we laid out concepts and we analyzed our practices, so to speak.
Sure.
We were very aware of where we wasted time and where time was more put to efficient way to make our dancing actually better.
Right.
Because besides practicing, we had to teach, obviously, to make our money and make our living.
Sure.
So at times, we didn't have so much time, so time became of the essence, and we needed to become very smart with our time, particularly doing 10 dance.
Right.
So very soon we tried to figure out a system and how we make our dancing more efficient.
Right. So nowadays, I mean, obviously you've coached hundreds of dancers and you've trained a lot of dancers since you competed. How do you teach them to practice better? Like, what do you ask them to do now that you've got the benefit of hindsight?
Right. So the main idea I like to give each of my students and my couples is the understanding, obviously. I want them really, really to understand the concept I share.
Sure.
I like concepts. I like words to share with them.
Sure.
I like to simplify it. So it's very important that man and lady alike have the same understanding of an execution, for an instance, of a figure.
Right.
So most of the time what happens is he and she will have completely different thoughts in their minds, but trying to execute a sequence of steps. But you can see already there's a disharmony of some sort because man and lady don't think alike. So what I like to share with the couple is words.
Right.
For instance, just swing or just turn. So those words will be then implemented as they occur together. So immediately you can see already that a figure is danced, if you like, with so much more ease and so much more potential because both parties were thinking alike.
Sure.
So thinking alike and making sure there is a subject line throughout the dance, that's important.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I teach, what I like to teach, that is.
Nice.
And that's for ballroom and Latin, smooth and rhythm is all the same.
Well, we have a lot of different listeners that listen to our podcast, and obviously a number of them are ballroom dancers themselves. So this will be massively important. But I know also for our other athletes and other people that listen to our podcast, even some of our listeners that aren't athletes, but listen just because they're trying to improve their lives and their world. I know ballroom has a huge crossover just even to daily life. And I know for us as dancers, we often say that dance is life. And I think golfers say that and football players say it, but I think there's just such a lovely correlation between dance and the relationships that we create, that it's so nice to hear and be able to allow our listeners to hear from experts like yourself some of these systems and methodologies of going about. So we really appreciate you sharing that with us. With so much success that you had during your career, and all the accolades that you've had along the way, you had to have found a way to attain kind of your peak performance every time you got on the floor. What kind of things did you and Denise do to attain that peak performance when you were competing?
So first of all, we try to broaden our mind by exploring other parts of dancing, whether it's ballet or jazz or any kind of form of dancing. We kind of studied how they would practice, how they use their body. Finding the peak performance, obviously you have a time. So it's a competition, let's say in 4 weeks, whatever. So you are trying now strategically from week to week, from practice to practice, to put a logbook together, so to speak, and really be strategically mark down what you practice and what your goal is for this week or the next week. So you ought to become much better because you're bound by your logbook, so to speak, and you can't cheat with your practices.
Sure.
And cut corners. So you really follow the book, so to speak, and allow the methods and to follow week by week, practice by practice, just the methods.
Yeah.
Of just being more, what's the word I'm looking for? So you don't practice by feel anymore.
Right.
So you become a little bit more smart about it and just go, okay, today we're simply going for technical aspects of the dance.
Sure.
Then as we get closer to the event, there will be the show factor, the performance factor, if you will.
Right.
You also have to worry about your stamina, obviously. So you're going to the gym much more and trying to build up stamina.
Sure.
So those are the things we kind of did to peak to the competition.
Sure.
And as you're in the competition, hopefully there was enough muscle memory built up so you can just completely trust your body to execute certain things, and you concentrate on performing it as a couple. So
Right.
that's kind of what we did.
That's lovely. It's we coach a lot of younger dancers coming up the ranks and in our area. And
Yes.
A lot of times I find that they want to, well, they think they want to come in and practice, but they just want to wander around aimlessly. kind of go, well, this is what I want to do today. And this is, I think I want to do this. And they end up spending, you know,
Yes.
3/4 of their practice time doing nothing, and thinking that they've
Correct.
actually improved. And so last year we
Right.
released a book that, oh, I guess it was about a year and a half ago, that was all about getting competitors into a more serious position. And like you just said, you know, we talk a lot about being purposeful with their practice time and
Right.
creating a schedule and
Right.
being much more on the ball and in what they're doing every
Yes.
day. And it's so great because I think a lot of our listeners that are athletes are going to go, okay, great. There's another person that says we should do it. You know, sometimes I think when they hear it from their own coach, they go, well, yeah, you're
Of
just
course.
telling me to do
Yes.
that. And it's kind of like hearing things from your parents that you know are correct, but you
Right.
don't do them anyway.
Right. Right.
So, you know, it's, uh, you've come such a long way through dance. It sounds like you've been dancing, you know, for a long time, since you were 12. And now, you know, a lot of our dancers that know of you, they see you judging and they see you being a chief judge. And so I want to talk a little bit about that and your experience in that role now that you're coaching and judging and doing that. But a lot of our kids love to hear about what your criteria is, what you use as a basis for judging when you're out on the floor and having to judge such wonderful dancers. Like, how do you determine what you're going to do?
Very good. Okay, so when you judge a competition, you have to realize as a competitor that you're not being scrutinized by the judge. You will be compared against the other couples in your respected levels. So whether you make a mistake or two, we don't really mind as long as it doesn't affect your performance.
Sure.
So that's the first thing you want to make across, that you don't fear, do mistakes, that's okay. But don't let it affect your performance after all.
Right.
Criteria are obviously, depending upon the levels, naturally, you want to see that a couple is in certain harmony with one another. So they're matching in abilities.
Right.
They are very sure about technical skills. They are very musicality. So there's components as we really want to see. I like to see a good lead and good follow, particularly when you have floor craft issues. I like to see how you negotiate yourselves around the floor with many people on the floor without creating any problems.
Sure.
The component of musicality, I said already, the component of movement. How well do you execute with two bodies a movement? Do you understand the movement within? So there's lots of details we like to see, and obviously if you bring as many details to the drawing board, so to speak, or if I can recognize many details as a judge, then you're obviously a contender for the finals and maybe the first, second, or third place.
Right. Well, you also do and take on the chief judging position at many comps, and I would say this is we always see the chief judge running around doing lots of things, but I constantly get asked by my dancers, what does the chief judge actually do? So can you describe to our audience what that job is?
Sure. So the chairman of judges position and job is basically to run the event on the weekend. So realizing the organizers perhaps are organizing the event prior, so they're taking entries, doing the schedule and so on. But at the event itself on the weekend, the chairman will then take over the entire schedule, making sure the timetable stays put. He or she will schedule the judges to show up for their shifts. We need to make sure we're obeying by the rules given to us, making sure that the music is in the right tempi, making sure that the conditions for the dancers and the judges are correct. So there's lots of little jobs we have to do throughout, and we're basically sitting in the ballroom from mornings till we're the first ones in and the last ones to get home, so to
Sure,
speak.
sure.
So that's kind of the job of a chairman.
Right.
At the end of the competition, we're then also we have to give an NDCA report. So making sure that everything from our rules, so to speak, was adhered and everything went by rules. So that's kind of the last thing we will do.
Sure.
Submit the NDCA report.
Sure.
So that's in short what a chairman will do.
So you're sort of the chief operating officer of that comp through the weekend. You
Yeah.
make it run. You do all the
Yes.
operations for it.
Yes. If there's any problems occurring, you as a chairman have to try to find a solution for that.
Sure.
Whether it's a complaint about another competitor or a complaint against a judge, whatever that might be. So you're trying to find a solution.
Does the chief judge ever actually judge on the floor during the weekend or not really?
Yes. Yes. So most of the time we should be a non-voting chairman, but sometimes we have to step in. Whether the judge may have a conflict with a family member being on the floor, that sort of
I
thing.
see.
Yes, we do.
Makes sense. And, like I said, our audience is a mix of a number of people. We talk a lot about peak performance and emotional mastery. We talk a lot about, how to live our lives better, become better people. And so we have kind of a mix of our audience. Obviously some are dancers, and that's why we love to have dancers on the podcast. And so all the remainder of the questions really are for our listeners that aren't necessarily dancers, although I think everything we've talked about applies to people that are not dancers. But these questions are a little bit more about your philosophy and how you've, how you see life and how you are going about moving forward for your life. So, because I teach a lot about emotional mastery, what are your thoughts about the importance of emotional mastery in the dance of life that we're living today?
I have to think about 1 second. So I like simplicity. If everything is more simplified in your life, in your career, in your sport, in dancing, it's much easier to manage it.
Of course.
If you overwhelm yourself with stuff, it becomes very difficult to manage. So simplicity is what I go by. Every morning I get up and I try to create my day as simple as possible. I'm not overwhelming myself with jobs. I just try to manage one task at a time. And if you don't get one task done in that particular day, so be it. There's always another day.
Sure.
So that's kind of the philosophy I follow.
I love it.
Enjoy life as to the most as possible, because things can obviously change
Right.
from 1 second to another. So live the day to its fullest, making sure you do what you love to do today and not tomorrow.
Right. Which kind of like leads to this idea of making sure you're living in the moment, right? Living every minute.
Yes.
And,
Absolutely.
what kind of things do you love to do in your, I mean, obviously you love dance and you're a big part of the dance world. But what kind of things do you like to do to help you kind of live in the moment and really be present?
Right. So I follow my hobbies, which are sailing. So I love water sports. Anything to do with water, I find great energy from. So the element of water, I love to be there in this environment. I like the outdoors as such. The mountains are great. So once in a while, I just have to recharge my batteries by following my hobbies. I go on the boat, or I go skiing, or whatever. So just step away from your daily activities and just recharge and just enjoy what the world has brought up to us.
It's great. What kind of boat do you have? Do you own one?
Yes. So I have a sailboat here in San Francisco. It's a 32-foot bonito, and it's a lovely boat.
Wow,
And once in a while, we take her out for the weekend, and we stay overnight, or we're cruising in the ocean.
wow.
So it's great fun.
That sounds amazing. What are some of your favorite life philosophies that you've learned and maybe that you teach? What kind of things have you learned from other people, or do you just like to teach to other people that are kind of in that realm of life philosophies?
I think the biggest philosophy of mine is sharing. I like to share, whether it's my knowledge for dancing or just giving other advice, whatever. Sharing, that's what I like to do, pretty much.
That's great.
The more you share, it always comes back to you.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what I experience. So
Well,
I kind of continue doing that.
what kind of projects and things can maybe our audience look forward to seeing you involved with? I know you do a lot of judging and travel a lot. Do you have any projects coming up that you can? Sometimes you can't share them with us yet until they're ready. But do you have any projects that you're working on that maybe the listeners can look out for coming forward?
Yes. So our yearly project is obviously our competitions. We run 2 events. One is called the Ball of the San Francisco, this short San Francisco Open, and the other event we run is the Portland Open. One is in April and the other is in May. And next year we're celebrating our 40th anniversary for the San Francisco Open. So that is a huge project on us. We're preparing we're trying to prepare a really, really good, memorable event. So that takes a lot of time right now.
Of course.
Well, so that's our biggest project.
We will for sure put a link in the podcast. And just again, for our listeners that aren't dancers, is the general public, now I know the answer to this, but is the general public allowed to come and watch these ballroom competitions? And would you like to have them?
Absolutely. We would love to have spectators from all sorts of life to come and enjoy the dancing, because that's what a ballroom dance competitor would like to, we want to see the support from the audience, whether you're a dancer or no dancer, it doesn't make any difference. But as a competitor, we love to have people cheering us up. So that's good.
Yeah, you and I were having a conversation a while back about that. And, I think a lot of people that aren't dancers kind of think that it's just for dancers. And
Yes.
You're absolutely right. As a dancer, we loved being on the floor when people were cheering and yelling and screaming. And I think in days past, maybe more of the general public was coming. And now, there's a lot of stuff on TV and YouTube that shows ballroom dance.
Right.
And, one of the things I wanted to kind of point out to our audience and listeners that aren't dancers is you should come and watch these competitions, because there's nothing like it in person, and it's amazing to see in person. Yes, you can watch it on TV with Dancing with the Stars or on YouTube, but it just isn't the same when you don't actually experience it in the ballroom. And so I'd encourage any of our listeners, especially those that are there in San Francisco and in your locations. You said the other one was Portland, right?
Yes.
And we encourage any of our listeners that are there, especially you're already there. What a great date night, what a great activity to go do for one of the evenings and see some of the amazing dancers and these wonderful comps that Stephan's putting on. You guys should go out and visit them and see and take part of all the fun festivities. You guys even throw dinners and banquets that precede the comp, right?
For sure, we're doing package options for anybody who wants to join us, whether from the spectators' point of view or for the competitors. We even offer dance camps throughout the weekend. So there's something to do for everybody, really.
That's really great. It sounds like a lot of fun for a lot of these people that maybe haven't taken part in dancing. And of course, to my dancers and people that are listening that are dancers, you should go and attend these competitions. They're amazing. I know that It's been fun seeing you through the years, always watching you dance as I was a younger competitor, and seeing you kind of lead the way as a 10 dancer was inspiring. And so it was, it's a long time coming to be able to have you on the interview and be able to talk to you about some of your experience. It just feels so privileged and honored that you joined us today. And I'm so excited for all of our listeners to hear about all of your experiences. So I thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're super busy, but we really appreciate you joining us today and sharing with us some of your expertise and knowledge. And we really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. It was fun. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And for those of you out there that haven't heard, if you love the podcast and you feel like it would help somebody else, please share it with anybody. You can share it on iTunes or Google Music or Stitcher or Spotify, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And please give us a review. Let us know that you're loving the podcast and that you like what we're getting for you. And as usual, help us change the world. So share the podcast, let people know that it's out there, and we'll keep bringing you some really great content and some really great interviews with people just like Stephan. And thank you so much again, Stephan, for taking the time today. And
my pleasure.
We will see you at the next comp, and good luck with your upcoming competitions that you're running.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Michael. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Want more Magic for Life? If so, then reserve your copy of my new book. Get your copy at everyminutebook.com. Inside this book, you'll find the secrets to attaining the next level of performance in anything you do. Learn the secrets behind emotional mastery that'll start you on your new journey of being a lifer. Whether you're an athlete, a business professional, or an artist, this book will change your life forever. Get your copy reserved today.